Welcome back. This is the part 3 video in continuation of the previous one where I had talked about some of the most important concepts like identifying, evaluating, interpreting and constructing arguments. Identifying, evaluating, interpreting and constructing arguments. So in this particular video, I'm looking at questions and answers that may most probably come either in fill in the blanks or any other format in our question paper of first year BA LLB for Mumbai University. Let's look at the first topic of identifying arguments. What is an argument in logic? Answer. An argument consists of a set of premises, very important, that supports a conclusion. So argument consists of a set of premises that support a conclusion. Argument is a reasoning process used to establish or refuse or refute a claim. Very important. Okay, next let's go on to question number 2. How do you distinguish between an argument and a non-argument? In the previous video I had already explained. Let's go through the answer. An argument contains at least one premise and a conclusion. The premise has to be there and a conclusion has to follow for an argument to be present. A non-argument such as explanations, commands or questions lack this structure. So there is no true or a false value in that particular statement. So those are not arguments. For an argument to be present, one needs at least one premise and one conclusion. What are premises and conclusion indicators? Premise indicators. Premise indicators are basically words starting with because, since, for, given that, and so on, or maybe anywhere in that particular premise these words may be present. Conclusion indicators, basically words like therefore, thus, hence, it follows that, are conclusion indicators. Very important to understand these two indicators for premise and for conclusion. So how do we determine what proposition or what statement is a premise or a conclusion? Is by these words. Question 4. Can an argument have implicit premises or conclusion? Yes. So basically implicit means within the premises itself there is a conclusion or there is an argument, implicit premises or conclusion. So in such cases you need to infer the missing premise or conclusion from the context. So for example, I can give you one example like A is a father. So that itself means there is an implicit conclusion in that A is a father. A is a father means or implies that A is a man. A is a man. So the premise itself implies that there is a conclusion. So an argument can have implicit premises. This is one premise, but it also has a conclusion in it. Okay, let's move on to question number 5. What are some examples of arguments and non-arguments? Let's look at arguments. All men are mortal. One premise. First premise. Premise 1. Socrates is a man. This is premise 2. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. This is the conclusion. Therefore, we saw the word earlier. Therefore is a conclusion. And all men are mortal and Socrates is a man are premise 2. So this can be looked at through Venn diagram also. I'll just quickly show you the Venn diagram. So all men, so when you say all men, so we say all men, these are all men. They are mortals. All men, let me put it like this. All men are mortals. Okay, so all men are coming in the mortal class or mortal category. And Socrates is a man. So Socrates is, so now we have to do another Venn diagram. First we have to do Socrates. Socrates is, it comes under the man only. Socrates comes under the man. Socrates and man, they are in one class. Socrates is a man. Therefore, and this man is coming in the mortal category, mortal class. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. So this is how we can come to a deductive conclusion. Let's look at non-argument. Please pass the solve. This is a request. So a request does not have a truth or a false value. Open the door. Open of the door does not have a true or false value. Come in. Again, no truth or false value. So for a premise to be present, if premise is present, it will have either a true or a false value. Let's look at evaluating arguments. What is the difference between validity and soundness? Validity means an argument is valid if the conclusion, very important, conclusion logically follows from the premises. So from given set of premises, if we can come to a inference, by way of inference, to a conclusion, then that is a valid argument. What is soundness? Soundness is basically an argument is sound if it is valid, which is on the first topic, and the premises are also true. But in validity, there is no, it's not necessary that premises have to have a truth value. Premises could be false and still the argument could be valid, because that is what the thinker is thinking. So this will cover up later on in future videos. Next, how do you determine if an argument is valid? So first check if the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises. If the conclusion does not follow from the premises, it is not a valid argument. If the premises are true, the conclusion must also be true in a valid argument. Next, what is a logical fallacy? Provide example. A logical fallacy is an error in reasoning. Example 1. Ad hominem, attacking the person instead of the argument. Example 2. Straw man, misrepresenting an opponent's argument to make it easier to attack. So these are fallacies or errors in our thinking. Next, we'll go on to question number 9. What is the role of evidence in evaluating arguments? Evidence supports the premises of an argument. So basically, evidence means it is a deductive reasoning. Evaluate the quality, relevance and reliability of the evidence. So not only the argument or the premises need to be supported with evidence. See, we can have premises, but we also need evidence for those premises, and those evidence needs to be of reliable quality. It should be relevant, and we should be able to evaluate the quality of that evidence. So what is the role of evidence in evaluating argument? So the evidence must be relevant, reliable. Question 10. How do you evaluate inductive arguments? We have to assess the strength of the argument by checking how likely the premises make the conclusion. So this is an observable premises. Here it is not set. For example, I can give an example here. Let's say for case number 1, a particular judge gave such and such judgment. For case 2 also, the judge gave such and such judgment. For case number 3 also similar. Now we can conclude by observing this that there is a possibility that in the 4th case also the judgment would be similar. Next, let's look at how do we interpret arguments. How do you break down an argument into premises and conclusions? So first we have to identify the main claim, that is what we are trying to conclude, and the reasons given for that claim, that is those premises. Use indicator words to help. Indicator words we have already discussed. For example, conclusion would have an indicator word therefore. Question 12. What are the implicit assumptions in an argument? Answer. These are unstated premises or beliefs that the argument depends on. For example, you should exercise because it's healthy. Assumes that health is desirable. So the implicit assumption in telling someone to do exercise is because it's healthy and health is desirable. So for example, we can have an implicit statement as I gave an example earlier. A is a father. Therefore, it implies that A is a man. Next, how do you deal with ambiguity in an argument? The ambiguity or ambiguous terms needs to be clarified by considering their context, where it is being said, where it is being used, or asking for further explanation. This is how we can clear ambiguity in an argument. What is the difference between deductive and inductive reasoning? This can come in the exam paper, so let's look at it. Deductive reasoning moves from general premises, that is, general means all, that is what it means, or no, so it applies to a class, to everyone in to a set of premises in a class. So when we say general premises, it means all men is a general premises to a specific conclusion, to Socrates. So we are moving from a general premises to a specific conclusion. So this example is quite repetitive. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Inductive reasoning moves from specific instances. Specific is every swan. Specific to a general conclusion. All swans. From every swan to all swan. So it moves from specific instance to a general conclusion, whereas deductive is exactly the opposite, moves from general premises to a specific conclusion. Let's look at the next question. Question 15. What is the importance of context in interpreting arguments? Context provides background information and helps interpret the meaning and relevance of an argument. Everything has to be in a proper context, where you are saying, what you are saying, what is the situation, legal context, philosophical context, social context. Everything will change depending on where that argument is being put. Let's look at topic 4, constructing arguments. What are the steps to construct a logical argument? First, we have to define our conclusion very clearly. Second, we have to provide those premises that support our conclusion. We have to ensure that there is logical consistency, that is, inference is possible, implication is possible, and we have to avoid logical fallacies. Next is, how do we ensure that an argument is persuasive? We have to use clear language, strong evidence, and logical reasoning. We have to appeal to reason, appeal to emotions or ethics as appropriate to the audience. What is the importance? What is the role of examples in constructing arguments? Examples make arguments relatable and easier to understand. They provide concrete evidence to support abstract ideas. Question 20. How do you construct a valid deductive argument? So first we start with a general premise, then we add a specific premise and derive a logically necessary conclusion. Example, first premise is all contracts require an offer and acceptance. We all know that as per Contract Act, contract requires an offer and acceptance. Second is, the document includes an offer and acceptance. And therefore the conclusion is that this document is a contract. Next, how can these skills be applied in legal reasoning? Legal reasoning often involves analyzing statutes, case laws, and arguments presented in court. Logical skills help in assessing evidence, constructing persuasive arguments, and identifying flaws in opposing arguments. Why is it important to avoid logical fallacies in legal arguments? Logical fallacies or errors in reasoning weaken the credibility of an argument and may lead to unfavorable outcomes in legal contexts. So it's important to avoid errors in reasoning in the legal documents or legal arguments. How do you apply critical thinking to case laws? Analyzing arguments presented, identifying the reasoning behind judgments, and evaluating their validity and soundness. So this is how we apply our critical thinking to case laws. That is, first we analyze all the arguments which are being presented. We identify the reason behind the judgment and we evaluate their validity and soundness. What is the significance of syllogisms in legal arguments? Syllogisms provide a structured way to present arguments logically, ensuring clarity and validity. Now, what is syllogism? Syllogism basically is is made up of one or more premises and a conclusion. So this particular structure is known as syllogisms. So syllogism provides a structured way to present arguments logically, ensuring clarity and validity. How does interpretation of arguments differ in written and oral advocacy? Written arguments require precision and detailed reasoning, while oral arguments benefit from rhetorical skills and adaptability to real-time feedback. This ends the question and answer for our topic on identifying, evaluating, interpreting, and constructing arguments. Thank you very much for staying there and listening. If you like it, do subscribe and share it with your friends. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.